It's buzzing through the hour here in Money Monday, and Dow losing a little bit of its luster here. Was up as high as 280 earlier, now around 230. We'll keep our eye on that throughout the hour. Bitcoin at 9,700, holding steady in that range, and always here as steady Eddie is Frank Morano, and joining us today is the Blue Lives Matter panel. Frank, we're going to have Lieutenant Randy Sutton, founder of the Wounded Blue, and Ray Dietrich, host of America's Keepers and the Thin Blue Line show.
Perfect.
And I mean, can we still use the term Blue Lives Matter, or has that been expelled from political correctness?
You know, unlike the New York Times, I'm not really into telling people what terms they should be using and not using. So as far as I'm concerned, use whatever term you like.
Got it. No, I mean on our show. I mean it doesn't bring like a negative connotation with it.
Not in my judgment, but again, I'm never the best judge of things like that. I have apparently very different views about what the proper subjects for discussion without offense are than the folks at places like the New York Times do.
So as the managing editor, then it's your
Go for it. Say whatever you like.
That's what I'm saying. It's your editorial decision that it is a acceptable term to portray something.
I think it's fine.
Is
I
not
think it's
negative. I'm with you. I mean, you know what they're saying, right? I mean, obviously the Black Lives Matter folks, they're not only asking for reform for black people, right? They're actually asking for reform of police brutality and unequal justice. So that would include all minorities, right? They're not just fighting for rule changes that say everything's okay, but not for black people. Blue should be fine, in my view.
Yeah, it's fine with me. Fine with me.
What would the Indians be?
Well, Red Lives Matter.
Got it. Asian would be Asian Lives Matter?
Well, I guess. I mean, you know, I would assume you'd have to ask an Asian person, I suppose.
Right. And like a Latino, what would that be?
John, how do I know? I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out like how many coalitions you have to bring together, you know, to fight for equal justice. You should have all these. You know what I mean? I know you're not allowed to say white lives matter, and I know if you say all lives matter, then they take that as, you know, connotation that you're saying, you know, white lives matter. So I don't know. You know, I wish, you know, people would just let people be people. You know that.
Well, let them. Let's let them.
Yeah. Should we let them?
Let's let them.
All right. Do we have Randy Sutton or Ray? Neither one right now. Okay, so the Blue Lives Matter panel may be moot.
I guess maybe they did find it offensive.
The men in blue were offended by the panel?
Perhaps. Everybody's offended these days.
What about Joe Imperatrice? Maybe we should get him on one of these days.
There you go. I think that'd be great. He's terrific.
I think that might be the first time I called him by his right name.
Yeah, it goes to figure he's not here. That he didn't get to see you accomplish that. But
the next time we have him on, I'll be sure to call him Anthony again.
There you go. There you go.
Frank, I don't know if you saw it. I know you're on air, so you didn't see it. But in the middle of Morning Joe this morning, right? In the middle of the show where they're still railing about how military forces were used to clear the park for the president to walk over to the church, right? They're still railing about this. There's not enough news out there, okay? That, you know, it might rise to a misuse of authority. It might be another impeachable, right? All of a sudden, Joe Scarborough starts asking Donnie Deutsch about the stylings in his home behind his setup, you know, and Joe's saying, oh, that looks like an expensive vase, and what kind of flowers are in it, and oh, what's that, and blah, you know, and they're laughing along, you know, through like a good 2-3 minutes of the segment, like joking around about how expensive the furniture is in Donnie Deutsch's Upper East Side apartment, Central Park South apartment. And then right in the middle of it, he tried to like get all fancy and start showing Joe this big glass vase he had, and he tripped. The vase went down and shattered. It was kind of karmatic. It was just so bizarre that they're taking time out of our lives to talk about clearing the park, like that's the heavy breaking news. At the same time, they're spending half a segment talking about Donnie Deutsch's furnishings.
It does seem strange. That's for sure.
I mean, when Joe works from home, Frank's the producer on AM 970 currently of the Joe Piscopo Show. When Joe works from home, do you guys spend portions of the segment, talking about his furnishings in the house?
Not if I can help it, that's for sure.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I guess we're not getting Randy Sutton and Ray Dietrich.
Well, not at the moment, but hopefully in the future.
All right. Okay. Well, let's see if we can get them in the future.
All right.
What else is going on out there? I'm breaking news in the markets. Yeah. They're up almost 300. So.
Yeah, that certainly is great news. One story that really caught my attention was the story about how these U.S. hospitals received billions of dollars in bailout money, and they furloughed their workers, and at the same time, their CEOs got millions. A terrific story in the New York Times today that as some of the wealthiest healthcare companies in the country received billions in taxpayer funds to help them cope with lost revenue. They laid off or cut the pay of tens of thousands of doctors, nurses, lower paid workers, and they continued throughout that whole time to pay their top executives, including their CEOs, millions. You're talking the Mayo Clinic, you're talking Tenet Healthcare, you're talking HCA. They awarded their highest paid executives $874 million. And it just seems like those folks should have shared in the sacrifice, just as the people that were enduring pay cuts while saving lives or losing their jobs entirely, they had to endure some suffering as well.
That is shocking. And, I am continuing to investigate another story where this company, Brookfield Asset Management, is a Canadian company, but they operate here in the U.S., right? And their stock's traded in the U.S. and on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And they did something very clever, Frank. When the government announced that they were going to be buying corporate bonds at the Treasury facility to keep liquidity, right? They issued $750 million worth of bonds, okay, like junk bonds, paying 4 or 5%. Junk bonds, literally, okay?
Right.
So they raised $750 million by using the government corporate debt facility, all right? And now you're not allowed to give bonuses, pay dividends, or do stock buybacks, right? What they do is they do a stock buyback to the tune of $500 million on the Toronto Exchange on their parent company shares. So they basically took $500 million from the U.S. government, and then they can't do buybacks in the U.S., so they went, it looks to me, the paper trail is clear as day. I'm doing homework, but it seems like the biggest of the big really try to rip off, America.
Yeah, what a shame that is. And it just feeds into the perception, which is looking more and more accurate, that when there's a crisis, or even when there's not a crisis, the people that tend to suffer are the people in the middle class and the lower middle class, and the people that tend to benefit are the people that are at the very top of the socioeconomic ladder.
Yeah. Well, the craziness continues, that's for sure. How's your portfolio looking today? I see Overstock is in the green.
I sold my Overstock. I was so frustrated by following it and having it be at a loss for so long that as soon as I made a little bit of money with it, I sold it, got out of that. So I only have 4 stocks left because I'm trying to pay some credit card bills, and I still have $20,000 worth of credit card debt, and my wife is very eager to buy a house. and she believes it's going to be a lot easier to qualify for a mortgage if I can reduce my credit card debt. So as soon as any of my securities have been showing a modest profit, I've been selling them just to get the cash to pay the credit card bills. So I only have four stocks left. I have BCB Bank, I have Hormel, I have Pat's company, the staffing company,
Yep.
Quad M, and the alkaline water company that we had on the show. So those are my last four.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. We're going to try it again, Sam, with Fernando Uribe right after this.